I just bought this and I am very, very disappointed. Oh, seriously? Hey guys, and welcome to this video with me, 6+Stevo. So yes, Vigilus Defiant, the new campaign book for Warhammer 40k. I recently picked this up with some money I got for Christmas. I was quite excited to get this. It looked pretty cool, and the thing that drew me to this most, even more than the campaign stuff in here and the fluff, was the specialist detachments that were available, and one in particular for the orcs, the Dread Waaagh detachment. Now, those of you that have watched the channel for a while know that I love my killer Kanz and my Dreads, and I am currently working towards building up my orc army as a dread mob. So as soon as I read that, I thought, well, it's a no-brainer. I need this book. I need to see what that detachment's all about. And so yeah, I got it very excitedly. It arrived in the post, opened it up, flipped straight to that detachment, and was met with massive disappointment. It's yeah, not overly impressed with it. Now, that's not a black mark against the book as a whole. I've only just started skimming the fluff, and I've read about a few of the other specialist attachments, those of which that relate to the orcs, and there's some good stuff in here. And there's a lot of good stuff for other factions as well, especially if you're an Ultramarine player. There's so you've got a couple of new characters in there. Yeah, there is some good stuff in this book, so it's not a black mark against the book itself. Although I can't really give a definitive review on the book as a whole, because like I said, I've only just been skimming through it. This video is just purely focused on what I was interested in the book, and that's the Dread Waaagh specialist detachment. So without further ado, let's go table down and take a look at this detachment. Okay guys, so here we are, table down with the Dread Waaagh specialist detachment, and just to start with, I'm just going to read off what it says on the page. So, the vision of a dozens strong mob of Death Dreads and killer Kanz has inspired many mechs across the galaxy. Those that make it a reality have an army of gunned up battering rams at their behest. When the Dread Waaagh is called, even a garrisoned hive wall can be reduced to rubble by its assault. Yeah, perfect. I am one of those mechs in question. I am definitely obsessed with the Kanz and the Death Dreads, and yeah, so that paragraph, that speaks to me. So we're off to a good start. They're building this up to something pretty special. So, specialist detachment. If your army is battle forged, you can use the specialist detachment stratagem below. Dread Waaagh, 1 command point. Coming in all shapes and sizes, the clanking monstrosities of a Dread Waaagh are all designed with one purpose in mind: the utter destruction of their poor, unsuspecting foes. Use this stratagem when choosing your army. Pick an orc detachment from your army to be a Dread Waaagh specialist detachment. Big mechs, Gorkanauts, Morkanauts, Death Dreads, and killer Kanz in that detachment gain the Dread Waaagh keyword. Okay, so this specialist attachment costs 1 command point, and that's very important because right from the bat we're spending a command point. Command points are precious, and that's not this detachment itself. I think all of these detachments cost 1 command point from what I can tell, so it's not exclusive to this, so it's 1 command point. And big mechs, Gorkanauts, Morkanauts, Death Dreads, and killer Kanz in the detachment gain the Dread Waaagh keyword. So what do you get for this? What does this Dread Waaagh keyword get you? Well, initially, nothing. What it gets you is access to a Warlord trait, 1 piece of shiny gubbins, and 2 stratagems. So we're not off to a great start there. I would have hoped for something like a passive buff, some kind of buff that is constantly active. You're spending command points on this right from the off. So I want something for my command points. I want some bang for my buck, put it that way. Now, what could that be? I don't know. Perhaps they could get increased movement. Perhaps they could be better at withstanding damage. Maybe they could have some sort of like a bellowing smoke special rule that gives them some kind of invulnerable save, or a feel no pain, or something. I don't know what exactly. It doesn't have to be something super powered, but just some kind of buff. Do excuse the cough. I am nursing a bit of a cold at the moment. So yeah, just something. So initially that was disappointing, but putting that to one side for a minute, perhaps these warlord traits and stratagems that we're getting access to are really good and well worth that command point. Well, let's have a look. So first off, we've got the warlord trait. If a Dread Waaagh character is your warlord, you can give them the following warlord trait: Dread Mech. Fixing dreads all day long, this big mech likes to think he knows a thing or two about them. He will often accompany his charges into the fray with spanner in hand, either to dish out some quick field repairs or to crump any enemies that stray too close. Model with the big Mechaniac ability only. When your warlord uses its big Mechaniac ability to repair a Dread Waaagh unit, add 1 to the number of wounds regained. Ugh. I mean, it's not a bad warlord trait. It's okay, but it's not setting the world ablaze, is it? And you've only got to look in the Orc Codex to see warlord traits that are so far, so much better than this, and so much more viable. I mean, adding 1 to the number of wounds. So yeah, potentially you could be repairing 4 wounds rather than 3, or you could just be repairing 2. So you're going to get 2 repair wounds minimum. So it's quite nice. It's quite useful for keeping your stuff going. However, let's not forget that there are a lot of weapons out there that can dish out 6 wounds in one shot. So, you know, although this ability is quite nice, it's really nothing special. I would have preferred this to be, rather than D3, it's D6, or something like that. I don't know. It's just a bit meh. I mean, it's all right as it is, but the fact that we've already had to pay a command point to get access to this, and then use this at the expense of some of the other, in my opinion, far better warlord traits. I don't know. It's all shades of meh to me. But anyway, that's just one part of it, the warlord trait. You are still free to use the warlord traits in the codex. So let's see what else this one command point gets us. Stratagems. Now here we are. We'd be hoping for something very special now. If your army includes any Dread Waaagh specialist detachments, you can use command points to use the following stratagems. So the first one, custom ammo for 2 command points. This impressive payload is worth a Bad Moon's gobful of teeth. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase. Pick a Dread Waaagh unit from your army. That unit can shoot twice this shooting phase with all of its ranged weapons. Now, I'm a little bit biased on this one, because for me, being a Bad Moon player, I already have access to a stratagem very similar to this, and that's the showing off stratagem. Now, that stratagem is only available to infantry. It costs the same amount of command points, but it does exactly the same thing. Basically, a unit can shoot twice. And favourite unit for me to use that on is my tank busters, because they're absolutely devastating. Really good unit, very powerful shooting, and getting them to shoot twice is amazing. So as soon as I read this, I thought, well, this is a bit wasted for me, because I've already got something that effectively does that. However, this obviously affects different units. This affects Dread Waaagh units. So this includes big mechs, Gorkanauts, Morkanauts, Death Dreads, and Killer Kanz. Except it doesn't affect Killer Kanz, because Killer Kanz are a grot unit. In the Codex, it specifically states that Killer Kanz, any grot unit, cannot use Orc stratagems. Now, so they can use stratagems from the rulebook. They can't use stratagems from the Orc Codex, and they can't use this because, see that there? Orcs stratagem. So this is actually contradicting itself. It's telling you that you can use this on any Dread Waaagh unit, but then when you read the Codex, it tells you that Grot units, killer Kanz, cannot use Orc stratagems. So, yeah, a little bit of confusion there, but as I'm reading it, rules as written, when you put everything together, I see it as killer Kanz cannot use this stratagem, which is a real shame, because of the units listed, they're probably one of the few units there that would be worthwhile using this on. Def Dreads, just no point. Even if you have kitted your Dread out to be a full-on Dakka Dread and you've replaced all of its arms with guns, and it's got 4 guns, it's just not going to be reliable enough and have enough Dakka to make spending 2 command points to make it shoot twice, to make that even remotely viable. I mean, possibly if you had one with 4 Scorchers up close and you were in that position, but that's going to be something that doesn't come up very often, let's be honest. I guess if that did happen, you spent 2 command points and you fired 4 Scorchers twice, yeah, that would be pretty nice actually. But like I said, the chances of that happening are going to be few and far between. You've got your Morkanaut, which does have fairly nice firepower, but again, it's just not reliable enough, and there's not enough of it to make spending 2 command points to do it twice worthwhile. You've got your Gorkanaut. Now, your Gorkanaut does pack a nice bit of firepower. He's got 18 shots from that Deathstorm Mega Shooter. He's got a couple of Twin Link Big Shooters. He's got a couple of rockets. He also got Scotch. He does pack a fair amount of Dakka. So he's probably the one that's screaming out on the page that you would use this on. And yeah, that firepower is moderately good. But when I compare this to using the Bad Moon stratagem for the tank busters, I just don't see him doing anywhere near the amount of damage. And for 2 command points, no, 3 command points, because it's already cost you a command point to get access to this, I just don't see it being that viable. Again, stratagems in the Codex, there's so many better things you could be spending your command points on. And like I say, Killer Kanz would have been a great unit. If you had 6 of them, you know, they're hitting on 4+, perhaps they've all got rockets, and then you're firing twice. Yeah, they could be okay. Now, one unit I think could potentially be good is the Big Mech. Especially if you've got one kitted out, as I have, with the Thunderbass Scorcher Teleport Blaster. He's going to be firing out a fair amount of Dakka, so possibly, and even then I'm saying only in certain scenarios, getting him to shoot twice could be very tasty indeed. But for the investment you're putting in and the rare opportunities when that's going to become useful, I don't know. It's all a bit situational. So yeah, it's okay. It's okay as a stratagem, but the fact that you've had to invest 3 command points to get it, you've already got something very similar and probably a lot better in the Orc Codex. I don't know. It's not exciting me. So the next one, we got a nice cheap one here. 1 command point. Okay, mech connections. The big mech of this Dread Waaagh has a fearsome reputation. Any mech boys that know what's best will keep some gubbins aside in their workshops for when his dreads roll into town. Use this stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Pick a Dread Waaagh unit from your army that is within 1 inch of a mech workshop. If you use the custom job ability to give that unit a custom job, it receives something extra special on a 4+ instead of a 6+. Oh God, this one took the biscuit. Right, let's not mince our words here. The mech workshop is shit. It really is crap. It's one of the most pointless units. It's one of the most pointless entries in the Codex. You have to miss a turn to use this thing to repair, and then get a chance, a 1 in 6 chance to get some kind of buff. It's crap, and this thing doesn't make it any better. I mean, okay, it's you're getting it on a 4+. So you've got a 50-50 shot. So there's no... This, you might spend the command point and then get nothing for it if you roll a 1 to a 3. Or you might get the custom job. Now, there is like the more Dakka job, you know, does increase your firepower a bit, but you've got to miss a turn shooting to get that. Even if you do get it, and it does buff your unit and make it better, you're probably better off just not bothering and getting 2 rounds of shooting with your standard firepower rather than missing a round and getting a very slight buff in the next turn. It just... I don't see this one being used by anyone. It's crap. It's as crap as the workshop is itself. At first, when I read it, I thought, oh, 4+, that kind of makes the mech workshop a bit viable, a bit useful. But I've reread it, I've had a look. No, it doesn't. Again, there's better things to spend your command points on. And if you're spending this to get access to that, you are wasting 2 command points straight away there. Okay, let's read on. Is there anything good in this Dread Waaagh detachment? Move the camera along a bit to the page. So, we've got our last bit of stuff. Shiny Gubbins. If your army includes a Dread Waaagh specialist detachment, you can give one of the following relics to a Dread Waaagh character from your army. Well, there is only one relic, and that is the souped up Shocker. It is rumoured that the souped up Shocker is one of only a handful of weapons made by the legendary mechaniac Orky. The shock attack gun has had its power cranked up in every way possible, sending its hapless ammunition through the warp with so much visceral force it can punch a snotling-shaped hole through the walls of solid ceramite. Okay, cool. Model with shock attack gun only. The souped up Shocker replaces the bearer's shock attack gun and has the following profile. So it's range 60, which is the same as the standard shock attack gun. Its type is heavy 2d6. Okay, so it's double the shots. The standard shock attack gun is just 1d6. Strength 2d6, that's the same. AP -5, that's the same. And damage d6, also the same. And then it's got the special rule that when you roll for its strength, if the result is 11+, it inflicts d3 mortal wounds on top of normal damage. Also the same. So this Shiny Gubbins, all it gets you is double shots from the shock attack gun. Now, the shock attack gun is a nice bit of kit. It's a solid weapon. It really is. It can be hit or miss. It can be a bit random. But when it works really, really well. So getting double shots is very nice. And if you're building sort of a shooty orc army, then, and you want something with packing a bit of firepower leading it and stuff, yeah, this could be good. But for me, would I prefer to have something like the Thunderbass or the Dead Shiny Shooter? Yes, probably. I mean, this is good, but I don't know. You could combine this with some of the Death Skull's abilities to be able to make him snipe. That could be quite nice. Now, and that's everything. This is all you get. So I'm trying here to find good within this. I really am. Now, I suppose if you combined this with this, now we're kind of finding some good in it. So if you really like your shock attack guns, but you want more, then yeah, you can have one firing double shots, then use the stratagem to get him to fire twice. So effectively, he's getting 4d6 shots. And now we're getting into some good territory. So even in what I see as being a crap specialist detachment, we are getting some good. There is some goodness that people could squeeze out of this, but I don't know. I mean, even the Warlord trait with this add 1 to the number of wounds regained. There's Shiny Gubbins available to Death Skulls that increases that. Rather than rolling a d3, you just get a flat 3 to repair. So you're just constantly fixing 3. And I would argue that that's better than this. Again, finding some good within this, you could combine that with the Death Skull gubbins, so that this guy could be always repairing 4 wounds a turn without having to roll. That's pretty nice. But yeah, other than that, guys, I don't really see much of any use in this. I really don't, and it's such a shame. I don't really know what I was hoping for. I was just hoping for something a bit more than this. And again, I'm very biased. You know, I got this book primarily for this, in the hope that it would give me some kind of buffs to my Dread Waaagh. But I'm probably never going to use this. I think I'm just going to stick with the stuff in the codex, because I don't have to spend a command point to get them. You know, I can get them anyway. There's nothing here, in my opinion, that makes spending that worthwhile. But it's not all doom and gloom for the orcs. I will probably cover in future videos some of the other detachments. We've got the Cult of Speed, we've got the Stomper Mob, and we've got the Blitz Brigade. So there are 3 other orc-based specialist detachments in here. And having looked at them, I think that those 3 are better than this. They do have some stuff in there that is fairly powerful, fairly good. And let's not forget as well that this is primarily a campaign book. So this isn't designed really for competitive play. Everything within this book is really designed to sort of give some fluff and some narrative to your games. And I also understand that they didn't want to make these detachments ultra powerful. If they were, that would have also garnered a lot of criticism from the community, that, oh, you know, to get the best out of your army, they're forcing you to have to buy this book, and it's not fair that, you know, this stuff's better than what's in the codex, and it's overpowered, and it's almost that sort of codex creep kind of mentality coming into it. So I get that. They didn't want to give anything stupidly powerful, and go back to the old days of the formations and detachments like we used to have in 7th. I get that. But I think if it just had some stratagems that was something just a bit better, something, I don't know. Perhaps if they made Kanz, a special rule that the Kanz, like all the Dread Waaagh units were could automatically pass morale tests, or re-roll them at least, or something, and that applied to Kanz. So like the old special rules where if Kanz were near Gorkanauts and Death Dreads and stuff, they were fearless because they were, you know, braver in the company of them. Something like that would have been quite good, to make Kanz a little bit more viable. But in my opinion, there's nothing here that really buffs my Dread Mob that I can't find equal to or better in the standard codex. But yeah, there we go, guys. There's the Dread Waaagh specialist detachment, and for me, a very disappointing detachment. So there you go, guys. There's my look at what I think is a very disappointing Dread Waaagh detachment. But share your comments below and give me your thoughts on it, if you think there's anything good that can be used within that detachment. And also share your comments below if you'd like me to cover any of the other detachments in this book. There are 3 other orc related detachments we can use. We've got the Stomper Mob, the Blitz Brigade, and the Cult of Speed, all of which, in my opinion, offer something a little bit better than the Dread Waaagh detachment does. But as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more orc-related content. This is 6 Stevo, signing out.